why don't we talk about each of your courses and give a little nugget that people are going to take away from what you're teaching. So Jeremiah, I know you have lots of nuggets. So what's something that people will learn from your course that they can apply?
Well, one of the main things about my course is I really bring in a lot of emotional intelligence to project management. Mm-hmm. So, you can have the methodologies, you can have, the technical aspect of it, the ways of working. But when it comes down to it, leadership is the ultimate advantage. We manage, people manage projects. People, manage, platforms, and overall, how we show up and who shows up matters the most. And so I always tell people that crisis reveals character. And that's a core competency when it comes to emotional intelligence. It's how we manage ourselves in those moments of crisis that shows who we are and our presence. So one of the main things I like to point out there is that everything that we do is around congruency and our moments of crisis, because there tends to be a little bit more in project management than we know.
Yeah, that's so true. To be able to navigate that stress and pressure and the frenzy that stakeholders often have that is higher than what it needs to be. And you're in the middle of that. So it's
absolutely.
So good. Let's hop over to Dr. Chambers. We're going to pop around here a little bit. So Jim, tell us about your customer service class and what's something people are going to get out of this.
I think one of the things that I cover in there that's helpful is triangulation. So when problems come up between you and team members, you and stakeholders, when people get angry, people are frustrated, they're under a lot of pressure, it may not have anything to do with you at all. And you need to depersonalize that. And so I show them a little, just from my psychology background, a little bit of how triangulation works. You may not even be the issue at all. They may be frustrated with you, but actually they're frustrated with their father-in-law or with their children or with the previous experience. So you need to learn to depersonalize, and when it comes to conflict resolution with another person. So I talk about that a little bit. I talk about how to identify how past experiences help you see what's going on in someone's life. So even in the most difficult circumstances, if you can connect with a person at a good level and begin to understand where they're coming from, you can not only resolve the human issue that's going on, you can also move forward with the project, because that's really your goal. But we don't need to see people as our problem. They may look like it sometimes, but if you have a more objective view of it. So I try to talk about that a little bit, simply because I've run into that with project managers for years. They get all hung up on personality, and that's not really the issue here. So anyway, that's just one little thing that I try to get at.
Clinton, tell us about your course and what folks are going to take away from it, or a little nugget.
Sure, appreciate it. So adaptive project management strategies, it's all about being adaptive. We all know that there's change out there and nobody likes it, but we all need to deal with it, especially as project managers. And disruptions happen, so you got to be prepared and roll with the punches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Going off of what Jeremiah was saying earlier. So, and they'll find in this course, it's encouraging the teams to think outside the box and don't focus on the square. There's other things, there's other tactics, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
There's 3 different methods that are out there. Dave and I are part of them, and Walt, one of our other team members, that it's out there, and we're going to get it out there so everyone can see it, that there's more than one way to, as the saying is, skin a cat. So
Right. And it's so true that you and I may think about a solution, 2 different solutions, but we get to the same result. But then you get into the nuance of, okay, what's most cost effective and time effective and resource, laden, and that's the nuts and bolts of project management. So true.
yes.
Candace, tell us about your course. Like we said, it's a startup. It has a startup mindset for PMs and why it's unique for project managers. Because I love your class.
Yes, it's about the power of the pivot. I come from Indiana. We love basketball here, and we talk about that pivot foot. Sometimes you have to keep one foot down and get into the next position. And that's kind of how project management works. You just spoke about resources, cost constraints, things like that. So you have to be creative to implement solutions and strategy behind that. So I think the course is great for people to learn mastering the power of the pivot. And I just really quickly want to touch on something you said too, on asking for permission to start on some of the projects. I want to use an opportunity to encourage people that sometimes you might hear a no, especially in this given market, and that's okay. You have to be your first yes, and your first yes is to be prepared. And so taking a course like this is what's helping you get into that mindset that everyone's speaking of, and helping equip you so when you do have that opportunity, you're ready to go. So don't be discouraged by the no's, be your first yes, and learn the power of the pivot and all these great strategies that these wonderful other project managers are teaching.
It's so good. I know in my life, something I've taken to heart is sometimes you say a prayer and, God doesn't say yes, but no may mean not right now. And I think that's true in so many things. You get a no, that doesn't mean you close that door forever. You might come back and knock on it again later on. And I love that idea that you have in your class about the pivot, because that is something that you have to do so much in project management, as we know. Great.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ben. Tell us about your class, Ben, and something folks will learn from you.
Sure. So my class on building your creativity, enhancing your problem solving, I hope people take away from this that creativity is not a talent that you're born with. It's something you can continue to go and build. And there could be the misnomer where, project managers are very type A, you're very structured, and I don't have that creativity built inside of myself to be able to exhibit. And I'd say, no, you absolutely have that capability, and you can use that to help problem solve with your team to get better results.
Well, your class is really fun, and I think you're right. Creativity is something we can all learn, and that's a conversation that I know you and I have texted back and forth a little bit about creativity. In that project management is creative. It is not a cooking recipe. It is, you have to be creative in how you combine the different elements together, and more in this and less than that. And every project's different. So there is not a copy paste mentality in project management. You have to be creative.
Yeah,
So
you gotta be like the mom's home cooking, where they don't have measurements for everything. It's like, I'm just gonna put in salt, and you're asking, how much salt? Am I putting in a teaspoon? How much is it? And they're just grabbing their fingers going, just this much. Just a tad of this, and we're going to add a little bit of spice into it, right? Because maybe you want to spice it up a bit, and you're doing it sometimes by feel. It's not absolutely completely regimented to say, no, you have to use exactly this amount of spice and this much oregano.
Yeah, exactly right. That's such a great analogy, because I think, especially when folks are new to the PM world or they're growing in their career, they want to know exactly what I do. And it is like mom's cooking. You put a little dash in, or a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's so true. I like that creativity. Let's go up to Tanya.
So in my course, From Risk to Rewards, the big thing that I hope people take away from it is to be proactive rather than reactive. We always kind of struggle to get people to focus on the risks, and always find ourselves running behind them after it's happened. So I really did try to interject the creativity into it by coming up with the 27 different power tools to kind of train people to flip for different scenarios. And then I intentionally put different scenarios in there too, to make people sort of relate or identify with potential things that they've maybe seen in their jobs or in any projects that they've been facing. So, but the whole goal of it is to look at risk differently, try to get ahead of it. And sometimes too, not see it just as a threat, but as the potential opportunities to grow through that chaos.
Exactly. Yeah, the risk and reward. I know you and I have talked about that in our webinar we did. You can find it on the YouTube channel, but the idea of risk and reward, that risk is everywhere. Drive a car, it's risk, but you get the reward that you don't have to walk 20 miles.
Exactly.
So risk is everywhere, and the reward balances that. So fantastic. Let's just go right down the middle here. Let's go to Dave. And Dave, tell us about your class and what people will learn from what you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with mastering Agile retrospectives. The reason I'm really keen on this one is if you come from a traditional project management background and you're looking for one agile practice to bring into your team to make a tangible difference straight away, I think it's regular retrospectives. I think it's great because it's a step change from traditional lessons learned that we do once at the end then forget about. This allows you to harness that learning throughout the lifespan of a project, which is a big win. So in terms of project performance, it's a big step up. But you can use them for lots of different things. You can use them to build more organic relationships with your team. You can use them to pool collective creativity and ideas. And you can use them for vehicles for catharsis when you're going through a really tough project and you need to let off some steam. So I think if there's one agile practice or one agile sort of idea that you want to bring into your traditional project management skill set, retrospectives is the one to go for. I've also got lean, which is another one. So I'll just hop to that quickly. And when people think of lean, I think the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, it's about getting rid of waste, which it is. That's a big part of lean. But of the 7 principles of lean, eliminating waste is one. And there's a whole host of other ideas around things like empowering your teams, around delivering as fast as you can, around deciding as late as you can. There's a really rich tapestry and a really rich history of lean that I think really gets taken for granted nowadays, and that's a little sad because lean in a lot of ways is the status quo of work now because it's been shaping the world of work for so long. And in my course, one of the bits that I'm really happy with is the history lesson on lean. We go all the way back to the 15th century where the Venetian Navy were implementing lean principles. And it's really nice.
You were there.
You were there at the time, actually. I saw you working the line. Now I remember. Yeah, but it's just really great to see how lean sort of shaped the world of work for, at this point, hundreds of years, and just how it continues to evolve and provide more and more value.
Right. Well, that's both your courses are excellent, and I think people could take. I know people could take things from both of those and apply them immediately. And I apologize, Jim. That was uncalled for. It's okay. So I don't have to buy you lunch. And let's go to Josh. Josh, go ahead. Tell us about your course, why it's cool, and what people are going to take away from it.
Absolutely. Mine's the AI and automation, and that's everywhere now. That is absolutely everywhere. And right now, a lot of people see AI and they think, oh, we're going to be doing pictures or videos or something like that. Or what can AI do for me for project management? And it can go from the smallest things to the largest things. We actually have workshops for that, right? In fact, we even use ChatGPT, for things like, for predictive analytics, right? And I'll say, again, going from the smallest thing, when I started to become a project manager, the number one thing that the government loved that I did was after action meeting reports. So after the meeting, I would then, gather all the information and then send it out. Well, there's AI and automation for that. And you can literally be done as soon as the meeting's over. You don't even have to type a thing. And it's just, it really is a difference between being productive and being busy. And so we can really take away that busyness throughout all of it and be a lot more productive. And again, I just feel like so many other courses are just so nitty gritty getting into it. And like, that doesn't help me for the, the regular, beginner to expert level PMs. And I think this is, again, a lot more practical than a lot of other ones that I really wanted to show that a lot of us can do. Oh, I will actually note this just to make sure here. You have to always make sure if you are utilizing AI, it's always approved at the executive or senior level position. Again, in the government, sometimes AI can't be used because of the, PII or the personal information. So just at least wanted to make sure we say that too.
That's a very good point.